And I use this metaphor. I use this metaphor of dance as being a creative thing that we've sort of have been able to. We argue too much. We use buts a lot. Yeah, I hear you, but this, right? But dancing is not. There's no but in dancing.
Yeah, unless you're, I guess you're throwing down on somebody like really
Right.
hard, which
Right.
is like a whole other thing. But yeah, there's no.
Yeah, you can't but in dance, right? But you can't add to dance, right? You can't,
Yeah, totally.
include things in dance. So you're talking about the lateral movement, yes, but then you can dip, you can go up, you can go, diagonally if you want to, right?
Oh,
Um,
right, right. Like you don't butt your movement,
no, no,
right? You
right?
keep
Yeah,
adding.
you keep adding to it, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. I gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So even musically, even how people put music together, right? You're not gonna say you're not gonna hear a band play live and say, but we could have done that better, or we could have done this. No, it's like I hear you. Okay, all right, okay. Now where can we take it next? All
Yeah,
right. So
that's
you can
actually
either go up
right.
or you can go down. You can make it like I was watching this guy, African guy. Well, he's African ancestry, but he grew up in England.
Hmm.
Fantastic musician, soul, African beats and everything. And you know what? They were playing this rhythm there, and it was hitting a crescendo. But when it hit the top, the PA system started to crack. So you're hearing this distortion happening in the
Yeah.
PA system, and you see the guys in the back trying to fix the PA system while the band's still playing.
Yeah.
But the guy said, you know what? Bring it down. So instead of fighting with the PA system, they said, okay, we could do this instead. All right, and it was a total end. It's like, then they came down, and they went to this metal kind of guitar solo thing, and the background guy started humming the same rhythm. And like there was no disconnect in the music. There was no
Mm.
arguing with the PA system. They were totally working with the fact that the PA system wasn't working, right? And they went, instead of a 5-minute song, it went 10 minutes.
Right.
They didn't lose anything. It was
It's
freaking awesome.
that reminds me of like it just reminds me of just generally like black music structure, just of that, right? Like you have
Yeah,
like this funk, which is like this,
right, right.
and then it
Yeah,
gets layered, and then things come out and things come in.
right.
It could actually really go on forever. They just
It could
stop.
go on forever.
We could go for like 40 minutes, and sometimes they do, right? Like Fela goes for like
Yeah,
a whole album side or longer.
totally. Yeah,
But yeah. So that really to me speaks. That's really interesting that you brought that up because
yeah,
wow, yeah, I never thought about it that way.
right,
There's no
right.
buts.
There's no buts.
It's an argument.
Yeah, we're not fighting with anything. We're just
Mm,
jamming. We're just moving, right? And
just moving.
yeah, we're just moving. I think that's a hard part in culture, right? In our work culture, is that we're always debating, we're always arguing, we're always taking a
Mm.
side. So everything is a but.
Right. There's not a lot
Um,
of integration. It sounds when I get that image, it's like because right now, like I have a lot of internal stuff too about like I go that I guess I'm feel like I'm challenging the way that activist communities work.
yeah,
And so when I go in with a but, it's like so much
yeah,
pushback and I get it. Like I get it. And I'm also part of me is like, no, we can't change how we work. But from what you're saying, yeah, it's like almost like a and and
yes,
me,
exactly,
and me, right? It's like I have to go more meta probably. Ugh.
right. Well,
So many, but yeah.
imagine if all of these individual groups had an and in it, that was a connective tissue to each activist intent, right?
Right.
Then what
And
would be able to change, right? But
ooh,
everybody's taking a stand on something, so much so that that's the only argument they can make, right? But if imagine if we wove every activist's good intention together into a larger song. Shit, dude! Imagine the things we can create then.
oh, oh yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's I think that's what we really have to dream about. Is
yeah.
you gave me an idea because I've been really struggling with like how to. I actually think the untapped emotional need of what I'm getting to is really huge.
Uh huh.
It's a massive emotional need. I'm like looking at the response and feeling the feelings and going. The gap between the needs that are met
Mm-hmm.
and the needs that are unmet is a humongous. There's a huge,
Yes, I hear
especially
you.
with Trump being in power and all that stuff.
Oh,
So
dude.
I just think about that and go like, like, when you made me, like, I've been thinking about how do I get the people who really almost right now disagree with what I'm doing,
Uh-huh.
validly offended by it even, perhaps, to be on board. And something about what you gave me was about like, and I've been thinking about a little bit this morning, like how I don't have to think about my system as excluding what they're doing,
Right.
because especially because I'm new to the scene in a sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a young kid, I'm like nothing.
Right.
But what I can do, it can be an and. It's like, so if somebody's like really freaking out and they're a white person, like give them my number. Like you don't have to deal with this. There's a
Yeah.
place. Like, and we can all be part of a system that
Yes.
takes care of each other. And I can be like an and to the
Right.
overall music. Because I feel like maybe I've been trying to be like the system itself. It's probably the
Always
poison.
dreaming big, Todd. Always dreaming big, man.
I know. But when I hear you, it's almost like I get an image of myself being at the end. Just another.
Yeah. Just another point to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Just
you.
another view on it, right? Like, I think there's a lot of, and I've been trying myself to, as much as to limit my message or my word into other comments when I see things being posted and stuff. I resist hard to comment on stuff because there's so many people just ignited about stuff now. Like I don't know if you feel it in your work, if as a in therapy and whatnot, but there's so much angst, man. There's so much
angst.
There's just so much of this and so much hostility and so much confusion. There's so much hurt and stuff like that. But
yeah, you see it all.
But it there's got to be a way to not coddle the emotions of all this, not to baby it, right? But to get beyond these things, right? And get back to doing and get back to being a culture, get back to being a village or a tribe and calling our people, right? And, yeah, we can have difference of opinion. We will, because we haven't been conditioned to have a shared opinion about anything.
Or share disagreement or even
whatever it is. Yeah.
The ends, like the instruments within a larger system. And
exactly. So
working that metaphor, yeah.
Instead of abandoning ship and just blowing up the whole freaking thing, like, let's agree we all going to come in together and just try to, like weave our stories together and say, okay, what can we do with all this? Instead of fighting everything, right? Yeah. And
when I hear that, it's like the kind of like I think of like the guy coming in with like a screaming electric guitar.
Yeah,
it's like out of tempo, and you're like,
what the
hell is that? And then another person comes in, they're like bashing a triangle, and they're just like, whatever, dude.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
But
you know what? I've heard, I've heard symphonies play Metallica.
Oh yeah, that's a great Apocalyptica.
Yeah. It's fucking amazing. It's like
amazing. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like gospel singers singing Led Zeppelin music. Like it can be done, right?
It can be done.
It can be done.
Right.
Just open yourself up to the possibility that these things can merge or cross or inspire each other and whatnot.
Right.
It doesn't have to be so opposite. It doesn't have to be so, non-inclusive or, but there's a way to find the rhythm to things.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, it's like video, so sometimes a bit delayed, so when it cut off.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
It's just I got an image from like the whole, like the anger, and you see the angst, and like continuing with that band image. It's like that drum, like that's healthy when you're in tempo. When you're in tempo. When you're in the pocket, it's healthy no matter how hard you smash it.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. Well, the thing was like, I was watching Metallica just happens to be one of my childhood bands. I grew up with this group and for a very long time. And one of the in a documentary I was watching for them, Lars Ulrich, the drummer, and the drummer, right?
Quote, I know Metallica pretty well.
He says he clears. it's freaking amazing how good it feels to make angry music, right? Like, it's a really thumping, driving, hard beat, but like, freaking feels good,
Right.
So there's joy even in that
Mm.
thundering sound. There's joy, there's bliss, there's
Joy.
happiness, there's completeness, there's fulfillment. It doesn't have, it can sound angry, but it doesn't have to contain anger.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Like it becomes something else.
Yeah, it becomes totally something else.
Or it can mutate. It can mutate into bliss and joy. And we don't know that, actually. We think of anger as only being angry, and
Right. But that being said, there's also a lot of what we would hear as being funky, soulful, whether it's in hip hop or what, and it is very angry.
a lot of it's hella angry. I know. I grew up in the '90s.
Yeah,
I
but
was
even
there.
today, I think even today's music is even more hostile in some
Right.
pockets of R&B. I think it's more hostile now
Hostile. Right.
than it was before.
Right.
I think it's hostile in the sense how it makes victims of women. It makes victims of non-colored people. It makes victims of people who are trying to do good. And like there's just a lot of just messed up stuff in
Oh yeah.
parts of the music. That's my point of view on it.
Well, Charles, we're getting old, as they say.
Oh, shit.
Wait, all
Don't
good
remind
music
me,
was
brother.
made before 2000, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I think
so.
So I'm being serious. I just
like,
calling out like the fact that we're like, maybe our like near to the ground days are over a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I see those turntables behind you, so.
Yeah, I do a little bit of smashing around back here.
Yeah, you're playing, right?
Yeah, I used to play a lot. I used to DJ a bit for a few years.
Mm.
I got into this whole bug about DJing and stuff. I love music. I always have.
Yeah.
And I got into DJing for a few years there. But the scene wasn't friendly. It wasn't well. It's a hard scene to be in Toronto, particularly. I think.
Yeah.
So I play for my friends. I play for my own enjoyment, kind of thing now.
Sure. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I tried to slug it, and I was just like, this is not.
No, it's insane, man.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
No, but so Tat, what's this whole transition for you, man? Because it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, okay. So I'm like trying to like avoid that subject, aren't I? Like what is the transition?
10 years, man. And like from last time we met, right? Or last time, we worked together.
Yeah.
You were into the poker thing. You were in a relationship.
This is going on.
You were crap, man. And then you got up and left, hit Vancouver, the coast and stuff. And I see these little pockets of videos showing up of you dancing and whatnot. Like, dude, what? And now you're into therapy, and you're talking about whiteness, and you talk about all these big ass things that dude, man, that's huge.
Well, I guess I went from that like.
Is it clean air?
It's clean air, and honestly, like it was, like it was all going on while you knew me in a way, like.
Yeah.
But I guess I went from places. It was a conscious choice to go from a place of self-help to be help, and I was an artist at the time. I was still working with you. I was an artist. And I was working in the office, right? And then so I started dancing around that time. I was there too.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
And it was like, a long trip in that. But one thing that happened was, so I was called to Europe as an artist to be a resident somewhere after I left. We weren't doing what we were doing anymore.
Yeah.
And I was still playing poker at the time. And I was invited to a gallery to make work about youth centers in Germany. So what I didn't know about youth centers in Germany were they're mostly for people of color. Children of refugees. They didn't tell me that.
Right.
And so they're like, it's an architectural project about imagining a youth center. And then they didn't tell me about that. And when I went there, I was like, hold on a second. A lot of these people here are all like mostly folks of color. And if they're white, they're like from Cuba or like Argentina.
So not really truly white.
Well, or at least not dominant, right? like not from Munich.
You're not talking Protestant European,
Yeah, they're not like talking about, the whiteness.
Anglo-Saxon or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, whoa, this is weird that they didn't tell me.
Right.
And then, so I just saw some people who are like 14 teaching a hip hop class, and I was like, that's weird. Like, who teaches when they're 14?
Right.
So I just like,
Yeah.
right. So I was like, started hanging out with them. I was just like, hey, you guys want to hang out? And I just hung out for a week. That was my art project basically, and just recorded interviews and stuff.
Right.
And at that same time that was going on was like the whole the UK race riots around Europe.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so an intermediate kind of discussion of all our projects at the residency, there's all of these folks of color on video in a room when we're all of a sudden talking about this. And the room is mostly white people, other than me and a few others. And after when we actually presented our work, my work was the only work with actual people of color in it, the voices and faces of. And this is supposed to be about a youth center that mainly serves people of color. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. Like, this art world thing that I'm a part of is fucked up.
Right.
The whole system is like, what we talked about this. We talked about how pressing this, important this is, and you've abstracted. You didn't respond to it emotionally, and you just abstracted this idea of youth center into some like sculptural project that doesn't account for real shit that people like me go through, and worse. Like I'm like the least of the disprivileged in a sense as a person of color. Like, we're talking like children of refugees. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
So that was really upsetting, and so I just basically left the art world because of that. And inside of that so the dance just stayed basically. So just the dance stayed. And then there was a moment when, in terms of me learning to dance, I was always interested in Black political history.
Right.
That was key. Like, I wasn't learning the dance it was actually started off as a research project around, I don't retain information very well, but research around things like the Black Panther movement.
Right.
And, like, street gangs and all the interrelationship of like Black youth culture.
Particularly in North America.
Yeah, particularly in North America. And I do popping, so Oakland, California, LA, that scene, and like so San Francisco. Right. Bay Area stuff. So that was what was driving me. And then I realized in my body, I was like, whoa, it's emotional actually for me to talk about this. Like, because I was getting divorced at the time too. And so like when you're getting divorced, it's private and you have a bunch of money. I was just in Montreal dancing all the time.
Right.
And what I did when I was practicing at the time was I had to numb myself to the pain a lot of the time. So I was just mostly roboting. Just like, like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to bot on camera, so I'm not going to do it. But, but realizing that, like, I'm having this experience, and I don't know what it means to be a Black person. I don't. But having an imaginary experience that I can empathize with is like, this is the thing that has allowed Black and brown people to survive this oppression in this middle to lower working class environment of factories, of military. So this like, so the movements in popping are like, they're like military movements.
Militant,
Yeah. So it's like, and it's like the robot is like part of the factory culture at that time.
The slave culture.
Yeah. And understanding that, I was like, so there's a connection to like me healing in my really personal, completely just me sense of going through my divorce. And then it's like a whole social healing of this huge trauma. And I was like, wow, okay, so that's the connection. And then I think from there, what was important to me was to look at my commitment to participate in the culture and to as well protect the legacy of it is kind of like what my current work draws out of, because in a sense, I feel like not in an obligatory way. I am like, I'm a part of it now. I can't not be. Like, I have grown up in it now, and
Right.
it's my own. It's not about in the center of it, allowing it to still, like, what interests me about dance culture is that, like, I'm learning about somebody else's body, in a sense, physical somatic experience through my own, and it intersects with my own pains and struggles. And so that's kind of like evolved into looking at like the wider picture of what whiteness is in this world, and locating that to actually it's a physical phenomenon. Whiteness is like a mechanization of the body, and it's happened everywhere. The way we sit, the way we walk, the way we breathe, whiteness is everywhere, and it's much bigger than what we think it is. So that's kind of like the research trajectory, how it evolved. But
Right.
the starting place was like the connection between my own healing, and then through that really understanding for myself what it could be like to be a Black person, like with that point in time, that place,
Right.
and
Right.
and being nurtured by that
Right.
culture, being
Yeah.
nurtured really, because I ciphered and like try to pay my dues and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or it's hard to, but like,
It is.
like you and in spaces where there's a lot of Black and brown bodies,
Right.
not staying in my comfort zone of this like really white academic art world,
Right.
really outside of that, so
Yeah.
that's like,
Wow,
so
man.
that's the story.
That's a heavy trip, brother.
So it's 10 years.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a heavy trip, man.
Yeah.
No, you touched on a lot of chords there for sure.
Yeah.
But kudos to you for going down that route, man. Not. I would say it's not even the 1% can listen to what's going on and within themselves that way. Even trying to hear, there is something calling there, but we'll be willing to go there, even if you don't know what it is you're being called to. But being able to have the curiosity, openness, the willingness, and the give a shitness to
Give a
you
shit.
know what, I'm hearing something but not sure, but I'm going to follow this anyway, and where is it going to take me now?
Yeah. Well, that's like, I think the number one thing I learned in like dance culture is
Yeah,
that actual impulse too. Like, I don't know where this is going to take me,
exactly.
and it's always usually great. That's what I realized. When you don't know it and you go, it's probably usually awesome.
It usually is.
Yeah.
Usually, well, the same thing. I'd say, this is why I love dance music. This is why I love salsa too, right? Like, you go into a studio, or you go into a club, or you go into whatever social event, and you meet, a dozen or so more people, and you don't know what level of skill they have in the music. You don't know if they know the music. You don't know if they hear the music the same way you do, or whatnot.
Yeah.
But when you go across the room and you meet somebody, and so you pull them into the center, it's okay. We'll see how this goes for the next 5 minutes. It can go blow up in hell, or it could be manageable, or it could be something stellar, right? And,
Right.
but it's also okay. Guys, we might be at two different levels of dance, or do two different qualities of music, or whatever. But you can still make something. You can still make something. And
I wish I had the patience, Charles. I'm learning.
No, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm hearing it.
But and I think to the point there, when you talk about whiteness, especially in our culture, like, it's amazing how many people are terrified of dancing.
Terrified. Yeah, it's scary.
Terrified of it.
It's if you learn how to dance and you enjoy it, it's gonna take you to places that are scary.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Yeah,
the body calling you back to this place.
Yeah,
it's archetypal, tribal. Like that, like deep place of like really connecting with like people in a village. It brings you back to that place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to even trying to understand yourself.
Oh yeah, and that's the last thing we want to do, right? Like,
no,
you've
been so conditioned to move away from all that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely, man. It's crazy. But that's, I think, fundamentally music. You talk about any, not forget about genre, but from any era,
Mm.
any point in time, in any place, music has been a binding force thing. You know, whether you do it in ceremony, where you do it in honoring of some deity or spirituality or whatnot, or
Mm.
you're celebrating a milestone in life, you know,
Mm.
dying, birthing, whatnot. It's a communal thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a combining thing. It's a thread making thing. It ties things together, you know. And I've been on a journey with a teacher out here. Actually, this is how I met Hargrave.
Oh,
Just,
Todd. Yeah.
yeah, just,
Okay.
you know, I met him. We have a teacher in common up here.
Hmm.
He has me going so far back into history and understanding the origins of culture and what's been
Hmm.
missing in our culture, and what's been stripped out in a, you know, for the excuse of civilization or universality and all of these globalization and all these things. And yeah, dance and music is one of those things that has been bastardized over the years, and
Hmm.
it's not organic anymore.
There you go again, Charles. You're really dating us.
Yeah, well, it's not even, forget
It's
about
not a
dating
vinyl
us.
anymore.
No, it's not. No, I'm not even talking about dating our gen. I mean, dating.
I'm
I mean,
messing.
like it's lost its things for centuries of years ago. Not even just the last 10 years.
Mm.
I'm talking about centuries ago.
Right. You feel that loss of,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. You know,
Mm.
when we picked up a drum,
That's great.
a djembe drum the other day, just to learn that and imagine what it was like for an African to have touched this drum
Mm.
hundreds of years ago. Would they think about rhythms the same way?
Mm.
Or are we just banging at a piece of leather, right? Like, because from my drumming, it sounds like I'm just banging at a piece of hide. But you know, there's incredible meaning in just your relationship with a drum. That's not even of this generation. I mean, talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago.
Yeah, I heard there's like signature beats from different villages, and they communicate.
Absolutely,
Like they go like, this is, I don't know what the rhythm is, but they communicate. This is my rhythm from this place of this town.
right.
This is my thing.
Yeah,
People actually
exactly.
communicate
It's
this way.
their song. But the other
Yeah.
thing too is like even the construction of the drum is very organic and dependent on the village and the tribe, because you're relying on certain woods to make that. And then some tribes believe that it's the spirit of the tree that comes out in the sound, not the hand slapping the hide. It's the spirit of the wood that
Yeah.
comes out through the sound,
Much
right?
healthier, much
Huh?
healthier way of
Yeah.
understanding. Yeah.
But it's connected, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It's deeply connected, right?
Mm.
So whereas, you know, we hit on the 808s and the drum beat machines and stuff like that. Like there's nothing organic about the
Mm.
mechanism that makes this sound anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to put that in it, whether it's our voice or the meaning of a
Mm.
word. But it doesn't. I don't think it has the same resonance for us as some
Mm.
older musics do.
Right.
But I don't think you know, between you and I or anybody else has that wherewithal to go that far back to pull that
Mm.
quality of music in this day and age. That's just my point. That's just my thought on it.
Mm.
But imagine that.
It sounds like that's almost like, to me, that sounds like a bit sad when I hear from you that, and
Absolutely.
knowing
That.
your, not knowing your ancestry, but I mean, I do know a little bit about your
Yeah.
background. Like,
Yeah.
it makes me think of
But
sad.
it's, and I think that there is something that, you know, one of the pieces, one of the things I bring up in our coaching is grief work.
Right. Yes.
You know,
Right.
share that, you know, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not the way it's supposed to be.
It's not the way it's.
It's not the way it's always been this way. It hasn't always been this way. There was a time where we were deeply connected.
Mm.
There was a time where purpose wasn't even a thing. You just acted,
Mm.
right? You just did your thing, right? And there's a lot of cultures who are deeply meant, but those are all gone now, right? So I think we should be a bit sad.
It's
I think we
beautiful.
should.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, it reminds me of like, I don't know the exact words or who wrote it. I think it was, I mean, I know there's a term, like, it reminds me of the blues.
Yeah.
The blues is literally that feeling of displacement
Loss.
and loss.
Exactly.
And I think
Not
of
being
like,
home.
yeah, yeah,
Not being home anymore. Right.
yeah, not being home.
That's gospel music. is trying to find yourself back. It's trying to
Yeah.
be connected again, having found loss, having grief loved ones, having been torn away from your home.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gospel music is. That's what blues music is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was mentioning this concert that I went to. This guy's name is Michael. I can't pronounce his last name for the life of me now. But he has a song now, you know, about being a black man on a white man world,
Right.
and it was a complete gospel blues track.
Yeah.
Right now, everybody was jumping around in the stand, you know, in the audience, they're like humming this lyric, like going crazy about this thing. But if you sat and read those words,
Yeah.
God, you can't help but cry, man.
Mm.
If you actually sat and read those words and sat with what would have made him to write them, and, you know, look at the history of gospel and blues music, you can't help but cry.
Yeah. Reminds me also like Jill Scott Heron. Like his lyrics are like, "The
Yeah.
home is where the hatred is." My goodness.
Yes.
Or New York's, or we almost lost Detroit, or New York City is killing me.
Dude, it's
Like
all there.
it's all there. Yeah.
It's all there.
It's
The
so there.
grief, the trauma, the hurt, the pain, it's
Mm-hmm.
all there. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know, we go through how many Leonard Cohen songs, it's there.
Yeah.
Robert
Mm.
Johnson songs, it's there. Muddy
Right.
Water songs, it's there. Right.
Right. Grief.
There's a lot of grief in those lyrics. Right.
Mm.
But I even think now, you know, even with modern hip hop or modern R&B, the grief is still there. The hurt is still
Oh,
there.
yeah, I'm
But
gonna say.
it's not an honorable sadness. It's almost animosity, it's anger, it's
Mm.
hatred, it's violence, it's all of these things. How we, you know,
Mm.
self-deprecate, or we hurt each other in our own words and stuff. It's just
Mm.
manifesting it to something else. I don't think it's healthy right now.
Are you experiencing that? I mean, if I may ask, as like a black identifying person, like that kind of like, because I feel like we're talking about the animosity, like.
Yeah, you know, look, to be honest with you, you know, I'm learning more about my ancestry, my particular ancestry, and you
Yeah.
know, I've been surprised at how much white is actually in my blood, right?
Right.
Um, but the other thing too is, you know, I grew up listening to the origins of hip hop, and
Yeah.
knowing that those artists did literally come out of slums.
Right.
Those artists had no other option.
Right.
Right? Those artists came out of the system of slavery,
Yeah.
right? In our culture now. Now I'm seeing these guys who are, you know, on a first deal record deal, they're making tens of millions of dollars in their first cut. And
Right.
like, what the fuck you got to complain about, man?
Right. Right.
Really?
So you see
You
like
got gold all over your freaking mouth. It's like, you know what? NWA didn't act like that shit. You know, Run DMC didn't carry on like that stuff. They weren't running around in Mercedes Benz and taunting hip hop. So what makes this hip hop anymore?
right. That sounds disappointing to you.
It is freaking disappointing. I'd
Right.
rather them really talk from the street about what the hell's going on in the system. I don't need a black guy who is barely 20 years old, clad in gold, telling me how to slap up his bitch.
Right.
That's the system playing right there. That's white culture playing on him.
Or yeah, corporate culture. And
Right,
I mean,
because
yeah, same
you
thing.
have to make black people feel demonic,
Yeah.
right? That they're not human beings.
Mm.
That's why I can't listen to modern hip hop,
Right.
because instead of being human about, okay, my enslavement, they're actually acting out what white culture's been talking about black people all the time, that we're all beasts.
So somehow it feels like you don't feel like the pain is there, but the grief somehow, that vulnerability is like missing somehow for you.
It's eradicated, it's gone,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Now they're actually personifying the actual image white people want to have, or white culture want to have, of black people.
Oh yeah,
That we
that's
are all
yeah.
thugs,
Right.
right?
This has been happening for a long time, even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But instead of having empathy for it, now it's become this other thing,
Right.
right? And that's disappointing for me.
Right.
That's really disappointing for me. Is that instead of, you know, bringing to light the actual social issues in black culture, They're actually acting out what people anticipate Black culture is all about, which is not the truth either.
And it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm starting to understand your perspective about like, if you see that it to have Black people portrayed as really rich and wealthy and all this other stuff really can go towards numbing white people from, or anybody else from like recognizing that there's fucking brutal poverty, incarceration rates. Like
The system doesn't change.
it totally numbs us to this, that is what's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having rich Black people, awesome that Black people have learned to make things work for themselves and they get wealth and stuff like that. That doesn't change the fact that there's systematic racism going on.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it actually bolsters the argument for white people to say that there's no racism. How could there be racism when you got a basketball player making $30 million a year?
Right.
In a white man's sport. Right? Because remember, basketball wasn't a Black man's sport. It's a white man's sport. So how could a man growing up in the ghetto, making $30 million a year, have anything to complain about?
Right.
Right. So that makes a case 1 point for the white person. There is no racism. Yeah. Yeah. Be there in a sec. Yeah. No, I got a meeting in about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I do gotta run.
You know, like one thing that this reminds me of, like, I know you gotta run, but you know, when Occupy Wall Street was going on, like Russell Simmons was the only like CEO down there, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? He's like a Black entrepreneur. He's the only person, legit mogul that was down there. And it was actually like, I'm behind this. I remember that. I was like, this means something, you know?
This means something.
This means something. It means something different, that like somehow about Black entrepreneurship or person of color entrepreneurship on our own terms is different from the corporate system in like a profound way in terms of our psychological orientation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much to go in there, Tab, man. So much.
Well, we can cut it. We could snip here.
Yeah.